Well, closing arguments have just wrapped up in Donald Trump's historic New York criminal trial. This is one of the final stages of the hush money case before a jury will then consider the charges against Trump and deliver their verdict. Anna Bauer is a correspondent at Lawfare. It's a legal analysis website, and she's been covering this case and joins us now from New York City. Anna, the defence went first in closing arguments, telling the jury this is an easy, not guilty verdict. Tell us about their summary.
Right. So Todd Blanche delivered his closing argument on behalf of Donald Trump, and they really focused on the person who's been billed by some, at least, as the star witness in the case. That is, of course, Michael Cohen, the former fixer and former personal attorney to Donald Trump, who paid Stormy Daniels the hush money that then Donald Trump, prosecutors say, reimbursed at a later date and falsified business records saying that it was for legal expenses rather than that reimbursement payment. That is at the heart of this case. And so naturally, the defense focused on Michael Cohen's credibility. They really attacked his credibility on grounds saying that he had motive to get revenge against Trump, given that they had a falling out, that he had blamed Donald Trump for his own misfortunes. They also attacked him, saying that he has profited off of Donald Trump, making podcasts and media appearances off of his relationship with Donald Trump. And then finally, they attacked Cohen's credibility itself in terms of his history of having criminal convictions, being a convicted perjurer. Things like that was the focus, or the primary focus, of the defense arguments. But they also focused on other things other than Cohen. They did say that Cohen is the key to the case, and that if you can't believe Cohen, then you can't deliver a guilty verdict against Trump. But at the same time, they really tried to attack some of the other key elements in the case. Most notably, they said that these expenses that these records that prosecutors say are false records actually were accurate. They said that Michael Cohen in 2017 was the personal attorney to the president, and that he did do some legal services, as he testified. Yes, they were minimal legal services, but Donald Trump nevertheless paid him out $35,000 per month for those legal services. And so therefore, the invoices and checks and vouchers that list these payments as for legal services rendered are therefore accurate. They also focused on Trump's causation of the false entries. They claimed that it was other employees who were dealing with inputting these records into the Trump organization system. They said that at the time Trump was the president of the United States, he was running the country, he was too busy to really be focusing on what exactly was going into the Trump organization internal records. And so therefore, he didn't cause the records to be made. And he also didn't have the intent to defraud, which is another element that prosecutors must prove in this case. So overall, it was a relatively strong performance from the defense. But I think what they were really missing here is, which is something that they've been missing the entire case throughout, is a central theory of the case, or something that kind of ties it all together, that the jurors can really understand a cohesive narrative to the defense strategy. It felt a little bit like throwing spaghetti at the wall just to see what sticks. So we will see how that pans out for the defense in the coming days.
And Anna, the prosecution has tried to hammer home to the jury that this alleged hush money payment did change the course of the 2016 election. Now, the jury will soon begin their deliberations. Does it have to be a unanimous verdict to convict Trump?
Right. So it does have to be a unanimous verdict to convict Trump. It also has to be unanimous to acquit Trump. But there is a third option in which we could have a hung jury. And so that means that potentially, at least on some of these counts, remember, each count, he's charged with 34 different individual counts. Each one relates to a different underlying document, a check, an invoice, the things that the prosecution says are these false documents. So for any one of those documents, it could be that there's a hung jury in which the jurors can't be unanimous. And if that is the case, then it means that the prosecution might later have an opportunity to retry Donald Trump on those charges if they wanted to. But if Donald Trump is acquitted, meaning that the jury unanimously decides that he is not guilty on any of these counts, then the prosecution will not have the opportunity to try him again, because under the U.S. Constitution, there's something called the double jeopardy clause, which means that you can't be tried twice for the crimes of which you've been committed or acquitted.
And finally, Anna, Trump has claimed this trial is political, but today the Biden campaign edged in outside court. Robert De Niro spoke.
Yes, I understand that Robert De Niro did speak, and I also think that there was a number of police officers who served during the January 6th attack at the Capitol who were also there as well. I've been in the courthouse all day, and so unfortunately I was not able to get a lot of color on the Robert De Niro speech and the other protests that were ongoing. But I will say that this was one of the liveliest days at the courthouse that I've seen in the time that I've been covering this case. It was the longest line that I have seen to get into court this morning. There were still people who were camped out there in order to get into court over the next coming days. I talked to one person who had been there since, I believe it was Friday. So it is certainly a time that I have not seen at this courthouse in terms of the liveliness of the protest and the public interest in the case. And I think that will only increase as we get towards the verdict in the next coming days.
Yeah.